They say a shadow has been orbiting Earth for thousands of years, silent, patient, watching. Astronauts whispered about it. Radio operators picked up strange signals from it. Photographs captured it. And yet, officially, it doesn't exist. They call it the Black Knight satellite. The story begins not in the space age, but far earlier. Long before Sputnik. Long before rockets carried men into orbit. In the late 19th century, Nikola Tesla was experimenting with radio transmissions. In 1899, from his laboratory in Colorado Springs, he picked up something strange. Signals, pulses, repeating patterns that didn't match natural sources. Tesla believed he had intercepted communication from another world. Newspapers mocked him. Scientists dismissed him, but the signals continued. Decades later, in the 1920s, amateur radio operators began reporting the same phenomenon, long-delayed echoes. They would send a signal into space, and seconds later, it would bounce back, delayed far longer than any earthly reflection could explain. Something out there was repeating their transmissions, something in orbit. By the 1950s, as humanity prepared for the space race, the mystery deepened. In 1954, newspapers in the United States reported that the Air Force had detected 2 unknown satellites orbiting Earth. This was years before Sputnik, the world's first official satellite. According to the press, military radars had tracked objects circling the planet, objects no nation had launched. The Pentagon quickly denied the reports, but the story would not die. In 1960, the riddle grew darker. On February 11th, U.S. Navy radars picked up a massive object in polar orbit. At that time, no known satellites used that path. The object was estimated to weigh thousands of pounds, far heavier than any man-made satellite in existence. Newspapers called it the mystery satellite. The Pentagon, once again, scrambled to explain it away. Officials suggested it was space debris, or maybe the remains of a rocket, but the whispers had already begun. The Black Knight had been seen. And then came the photographs. In 1998, during the STS-88 mission of the Space Shuttle Endeavour, astronauts captured images of a strange, dark object drifting in orbit. Jagged, angular, nothing like a satellite or rocket casing. The images, released by NASA, ignited a firestorm. Researchers around the world pointed to the object and said, "There it is, the Black Knight." Proof, finally, of something alien, ancient, circling above our heads. NASA, of course, had an explanation. They claimed the images showed nothing more than a thermal blanket that had come loose during the mission. Space junk, nothing more. But the photographs told a different story. The object looked massive, structured, deliberate. And why did it appear in different positions, as if maneuvering? The theories multiplied. Some claimed the Black Knight was an ancient alien satellite, left in orbit as a monitor, watching Earth civilizations rise and fall. Others connected it to Tesla's mysterious signals, suggesting the object had been transmitting to us for over a century. A cosmic relay, a beacon, a warning. The idea was terrifying. If it had been here for thousands of years, then it had seen everything: the fall of Rome, the Black Death, the atomic bomb. And through it all, it had remained silent, watching, waiting. And there was another disturbing detail. In 1973, a Scottish researcher named Duncan Lunan analyzed the long-delayed echoes, first reported in the 1920s. He claimed they were not random at all. They formed a message. According to Lunan, the signals contained instructions, pointing to the star system Epsilon Boötis, 200 light-years away. A cosmic postcard. If Lunan was correct, the Black Knight was not just an observer, it was a messenger. But what message was it carrying? And why had it remained in silence, orbiting above, while humanity tore itself apart below? The Black Knight satellite has never been officially acknowledged. NASA insists it is space debris, nothing more. Yet photographs, radar reports, and strange radio signals refuse to vanish. They linger, haunting the edges of science and myth. Even today, amateur astronomers report glimpses of something massive in polar orbit, an orbit our satellites rarely use. Too high for debris, too stable for junk. A silent sentinel. Perhaps Tesla was right. Perhaps the signals he heard in 1899 were the Black Knight calling out. Perhaps every so often, it makes itself known. A flicker on a radar, a shadow in a photograph, a whisper in the static. And perhaps the reason no government will admit its existence is because they know it was here long before us. In the 20th century, as radio spread across the globe, the whispers grew louder. Strange echoes, delays that could not be explained by Earth's atmosphere. Amateur radio operators called them LDEs, long delayed echoes. But they didn't behave like ordinary reflections. These signals came back seconds, sometimes minutes later, as though bouncing from something massive in deep space. And in 1928, researchers in Norway documented the phenomenon with unsettling precision. They sent simple signals into the sky, dots and dashes. What came back were distorted versions, delayed far beyond normal. They concluded something out there was listening and repeating. For decades, the LDE mystery haunted the margins of science. Some dismissed it as ionospheric reflections, others suspected Soviet trickery. But the truth was stranger. The delays implied the presence of a transmitter in orbit. Not of Earth, not of any nation, but something else. Then came Duncan Lunan. In 1973, this Scottish astronomer did something radical. He analyzed the patterns of those echoes, and what he claimed to find sent shockwaves through the UFO community. According to Lunan, the signals weren't random at all. They formed a coded star map, and that map pointed to one place, Epsilon Bootis, a binary star system nearly 200 light-years away. Lunan suggested the echoes were a message left behind, a kind of interstellar calling card. His conclusion, an alien probe placed in Earth's orbit thousands of years ago, broadcasting a signal to guide us back to its home. The idea was breathtaking. If true, the Black Knight wasn't just an observer. It was a messenger, an ambassador from a distant star. But the establishment rejected it. Lunan himself later distanced from parts of his analysis, claiming his interpretation might have been flawed. Yet the seed had been planted. Across the world, believers whispered. The Black Knight had spoken. And then, the photographs appeared. December 1998. The Space Shuttle Endeavour. Mission STS-88. The first mission to begin assembling the International Space Station. As astronauts worked in orbit, cameras captured something drifting above the Earth. Not a blanket, not debris, but a jagged black object tumbling silently through space. When NASA released the photos, the UFO community erupted. "There it is," they cried. "The Black Knight." The images were eerie, angular, asymmetrical, far larger than any stray panel or piece of fabric. Suspended in the void, with the Earth glowing blue below, it looked less like junk and more like a vessel, a satellite, a presence. NASA's explanation was immediate. It was nothing but a thermal blanket, lost during a spacewalk. Harmless, meaningless, ordinary. But their words didn't match the images. The object looked too massive, too structured, too deliberate. And why, some asked, did NASA's explanation come so quickly, so forcefully, as though they needed the story buried before it spread? Whistleblowers only added fuel to the fire. Retired military officials hinted that governments had tracked unknown objects in polar orbit for decades. Astronauts themselves made cryptic remarks. Gordon Cooper, one of the Mercury astronauts, claimed he saw a UFO in space. His report was allegedly hushed up, and through it all, the Black Knight legend grew. Some believed it had been orbiting for 13,000 years, a silent sentinel placed here long before human civilization learned to build cities. They connected it to myths of sky gods and watchers, to the Dogon tribe of Africa, who told stories of beings from Sirius long before modern astronomy confirmed Sirius had a companion star, to Norse legends of Odin's ravens who flew around the world and returned with secrets. Others argued it was part of a hidden war in orbit, that both the United States and Soviet Union had encountered it during the Cold War, that it was no passive observer, but something far more active, a probe, a weapon, a warning. And still, the evidence mounted. Radar detections, newspaper clippings, the 1954 reports of mystery satellites years before Sputnik, the 1960 dark satellite tracked by the Navy, the 1998 shuttle photos, and the eerie radio echoes, still unexplained. Piece by piece, the puzzle pointed to one chilling possibility. We were not alone in orbit. But here's the strangest part. Whenever the Black Knight story gains momentum, it seems to vanish again. Articles deleted, photographs buried under NASA's archives, the subject ridiculed, dismissed, erased, as though someone, or something, wants it forgotten. Yet the image endures. That dark, jagged object drifting silently above Earth, watching, waiting. If the Black Knight is real, then every night, as we look up at the stars, it may be looking back. A presence that has been here for millennia. A presence that has seen empires rise and fall. A presence that has survived the birth of the atom, the voyage to the moon, the birth of the digital age. And if it carries a message, why has it never spoken again? Unless, of course, the silence is the message. Imagine something watching Earth not for decades, not for centuries, but for thousands of years. That is the darkest theory of the Black Knight satellite. That it is no accident, no debris, no passing rock. It is a sentinel, a watcher, a machine placed here long before humanity knew how to shape iron. Ancient astronaut theorists point to myths across cultures, stories of sky gods descending from the heavens, of messengers who return to the stars but promise to keep watch. The Mayans carved discs with radiant beams. The Dogon of Africa told of beings from Sirius who gave them knowledge of the stars. And in the Norse sagas, Odin's ravens circled the earth and returned with secrets. Legends, perhaps, or distorted memories of something real. If the Black Knight has been orbiting for millennia, then perhaps it is the source of these myths. A dark shape drifting in the heavens, sometimes glimpsed, sometimes gone. A machine that never sleeps. But why would it be here? Some believe it is a probe, like Voyager, but older, left by a civilization far more advanced. A device meant to watch, to wait, to record the rise of species across the galaxy. If so, then Earth may not be unique. Perhaps other worlds, too, have their watchers. Silent sentinels left in orbit until the day they are found. Others argue it is more sinister. A warden, not a witness. A prison guard, ensuring that humanity does not stray too far. The theory is unsettling, that the silence of the stars, the absence of contact, is not because we are alone, but because we are contained, observed, managed. And then there are the whispers of war. During the Cold War, when the US and Soviet Union raced to dominate space, both sides encountered anomalies. Radar contacts that vanished. Unknown objects in orbits neither side admitted to. In hushed tones, retired military men spoke of something up there we didn't put. One of the most haunting testimonies came from astronaut Gordon Cooper. In 1963, while orbiting the Earth, Cooper reported seeing a glowing green object approaching his capsule. Ground control confirmed a radar track of the same object. The report vanished. NASA denied it happened. Cooper himself, later in life, insisted UFOs were real and that governments were hiding the truth. Was the Black Knight what he saw? Other astronauts hinted, never directly confirming. Photographs leaked, images of dark objects in orbit, explained away as blankets or junk. But the silence behind the explanations only deepened suspicion. Because here is the pattern. Every time the Black Knight appears, it vanishes again. Not physically, but in the record. Photos deleted, articles dismissed, reports classified, as if there is an effort not to solve the mystery, but to smother it. And maybe that's the point. What if the Black Knight itself ensures silence? A probe intelligent enough to mask itself, to interfere with signals, to erase traces. A machine that wants to remain hidden until the right moment. The theory grows darker. If the Black Knight has been here for 13,000 years, it has seen humanity rise from caves to cities, from bows to nuclear warheads. If it is a recorder, then what does it do with what it records? If it is a sentinel, then who sent it? And if it is a warden, then when does it intervene? The most frightening possibility is not that the Black Knight is here to watch us. The most frightening possibility is that it is here to decide what we become. And yet, through it all, it never speaks. No new signals, no messages, only silence. But silence can be a message. Perhaps it is waiting for us to act, to reach a level where we can interpret its presence, to prove we are worthy of communication. Or perhaps its silence is judgment, a verdict passed on a species too violent, too chaotic, too young to be trusted. The Black Knight is not a myth you can laugh away. It is a presence that lingers in the data. The radar contacts, the echoes, the photographs, the whispers of astronauts. A shadow orbiting our world. And as the decades pass, the question grows heavier. What happens when the Black Knight stops watching and starts responding? In the 21st century, the legend of the Black Knight has only grown. NASA insists it is nonsense. Scientists wave it away as conspiracy. Yet still, the images remain. The reports, the echoes. Amateur astronomers track objects in polar orbit that should not exist. Radio enthusiasts claim they continue to receive bursts of unexplained signals. Photographs of the STS-88 object resurface again and again, each time sparking new debate, and each time the same thing happens. Explanations appear instantly, too instantly. It's space junk. It's a blanket. It's nothing. But the explanations feel like reflex, like cover stories rehearsed too many times. The silence of space agencies only deepens the mystery. If it is junk, why not prove it? Why not release clear data? Why, instead, does the story keep slipping into shadow? The Black Knight refuses to go away. It lingers like a scar in the night sky, a fragment of something that should not be there. And maybe that is the point. Some modern researchers argue the Black Night is part of a larger pattern. The mystery of USOs beneath the oceans, the UFOs around nuclear sites, the signals like the famous WOW transmission. Each event separate, yet connected. Each a fragment of a bigger picture. A presence observing humanity at its thresholds. War, exploration, discovery. If true, then the Black Night is not alone. It is one node in a network, a web of watchers that stretch across Earth and beyond, silent until the moment silence is no longer useful. What would happen if it decided to answer? For now, the satellite remains mute. No clear message, no communication, only the faintest hints. Tesla's echoes, Lunan's star map, photographs NASA cannot explain away. A puzzle half glimpsed, never solved. But silence is not emptiness. Silence is patience. Silence is waiting. And that is the most haunting possibility. That above us, circling endlessly, is a presence older than our civilizations. Watching as we learn to burn fuel, to split atoms, to touch the stars. Recording. Waiting. Perhaps for a signal, perhaps for a mistake. The Black Night story is not about proof. It is about the shadow that refuses to vanish. The anomaly that lingers. The mystery that will not be erased. And when we look up at the night sky, believing it is empty, perhaps we are wrong. Perhaps we are the ones under observation, under judgment, under watch. For more than 13,000 years, the Black Night has circled above, silent, patient, watching. The question is not whether it is real. The question is, what happens when the watcher finally speaks?